Donald Trump is running the most corrupt administration in history, and it's not even close. But what's so shocking about Trump's corruption is how willing he is to do it publicly, to take bribes, to take jets, to manipulate the market. You know when he is hiding his corruption, that is when it is really bad and really criminal. And that's what was just uncovered in a breaking New York Times article about one of the worst corrupt deals Donald Trump just did in his presidency, that he is panicking over it getting exposed. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into this breaking news story from the New York Times, I want to start with a lie from Carolyn Levitt that makes it all the much worse.
And let me just get to the premise of your question that both of you have raised. I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. He left a life of luxury and a life of running a very successful real estate empire for public service, not just once, but twice. And again, the American public reelected him back to this White House because they trust he acts in the best interest of our country and putting the American public first. This is a president who has actually lost money for being president of the United States. I don't remember these same type of questions being asked of my predecessor about a career politician who was clearly profiting off of this office. That is not what President Trump does, and this White House holds ourselves to the highest of ethical standards. Phil.
I'm surprised Carolyn Levitt is able to say that with a straight face. The only reason Donald Trump got into politics in the first place, which he didn't just run for president the one time in 2016, he'd been doing it for years since then, was to grift, was for publicity. He fell into this thing. He never cared about it. He only cares about himself. The reason he ran again in 2024 was to get out of going to jail, was to steal as much money as he possibly can from his supporters, which he continues to do at higher levels with his crypto scams. But it's not just his supporters who Donald Trump is stealing from. It is his donors and people who are looking for special favors from Donald Trump. And that is exactly what the New York Times broke down. But Chris Murphy said something recently, which I think perfectly fits into it, that I want to check out right before we do.
But I will just tell you that democracies do not die in an instant. Very few democracies that have perished have a day, a before and after moment. It's a descent. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you discover that you're not in a democracy any longer, that the leader, the president, has so much power that it can never be taken away. And the steps that have been taken by Donald Trump in the first week are a masterclass in the kind of plan that you would undertake if you wanted to grab power permanently. You say to your supporters, if you threaten or intimidate my opposition, I'll let you off the hook. You cast darkness over what happens inside the agencies so the president can move money any way that he wants without any accountability. And you seize control of spending so that you can use money to reward your friends and punish your enemies.
So a week ago, there was this story that a trucking company bought $20 million of Trump meme coin solely because they believed that was the way that they were going to get tariff relief.
Shortly after Donald Trump had typed in all caps, no exemptions. I know he meant it because he typed it in all caps.
So once the story is out that you can pay your way out of tariff relief, it just becomes normalized in the economy. So we still get screwed. So the corruption just is icky and it's wrong and it's illegal and unconstitutional. No president should enrich themselves off of tariffs or any other federal policy, but it also really doesn't do anything about the costs.
This is a presidency for profit. Donald Trump is getting big donations from corporations to his library, which will inevitably be full of children's books and I guess photos of Donald Trump. Not a lot of reading in the MAGA cult, but Murphy mentioned in that clip pardons. Donald Trump is willing to pardon anyone who commits crimes on his behalf. If that means crimes of violence, criminal acts in the form of corruption, shady business deals, Donald Trump is willing to let him off the hook. but he's also willing to let you off the hook for a certain price. And that's what was uncovered in this New York Times story. Trump pardoned tax cheat after mother attended $1 million dinner. Paul Wolczak's pardon application cited his mother's support for the president, including raising millions of dollars in a connection to a plot to publicize a Biden family diary. As Paul Wolczak awaited sentencing earlier this year, his best hope for avoiding prison time rested with the newly inaugurated president. Mr. Wolczak, a former nursing home executive who had pleaded guilty to tax crimes days after the 2024 election, submitted a pardon application to President Trump around Inauguration Day. The application focused not solely on Mr. Wolczak's offenses, but also on political activity of his mother, Elizabeth Fago. His mother had raised millions of dollars for Donald Trump's campaign and those of other Republicans, the application said. It also highlighted her connection to an effort to sabotage Joe Biden Jr.'s campaign in 2020 by publicizing the addiction diary of his daughter, Ashley Biden, an episode that drew law enforcement scrutiny. Mr. Wolczak's pardon application argued that his criminal prosecution was motivated by his mother's efforts for Mr. Trump, rather than by admitted use of money earmarked for employees' taxes to fund an extravagant lifestyle. Still, weeks went by and no pardon was forthcoming, even as Mr. Trump issued clemency grants to hundreds of other allies. Then Ms. Fago was invited to a $1 million per person fundraising dinner last month that promised face-to-face access to Mr. Trump at his private Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida. Less than 3 weeks after she attended the dinner, Mr. Trump signed a full and unconditional pardon. It came just in the nick of time for Mr. Wolczak, barring him from having to pay nearly $4.4 million in restitution and from reporting to prison for an 18-month sentence that had been handed down just 12 days earlier. A judge had justified the incarceration by declaring that there is not a get-out-of-jail-free card for the rich. The pardon, however, indicated otherwise. The case of Ms. Fago and Mr. Wolczak is the latest example of the president's willingness to use his clemency powers to reward allies who advance his political causes and to punish his enemies. It is, quite literally, a pay-to-play presidency. What a crushing response to a judge who says, I do not care what is in your bank account, you are not above the law, to be able to buy off the president. And with $1 million, that's it. That's all it takes to buy off Donald Trump, $1 million. I'm not saying, raise the price, but it just seems so easy. He is just so easy, whether it be to bribe or to flatter or to convince and to act in the worst interest of all Americans in favor of the wealthiest, the biggest corporations, the most powerful in our country already. It is embarrassing. It is shameful. This is Donald Trump's administration. The rich get richer and more powerful as they break the law and get off the hook because the president is their buddy and he's on the take. That's the current state of the country. That's what we have going on right now. All the while, Donald Trump is using his executive authority to attack his enemies. And Raphael Warnock grilled one of the people helping Donald Trump to do that, his nominee to head up the IRS, in this clip right here.
After your nomination to head up the IRS, you received nearly $200,000 in campaign contributions, including from tax preparation firms who might have committed tax fraud. When we met, I asked if you would recuse yourself from decisions involving those donors. You very clearly said that you would not recuse yourself. That's what you said to me a few days ago, but it's been a few days, so I want to ask again, for the record, is it still your testimony that you will not recuse yourself from investigations involving these campaign donors?
I'm not going to deal in hypotheticals, but the OGE report, or whatever it's called, that I signed has very specific things on what I could be involved in and not. So I'm going to go with the OGE that I signed.
Do you think that in the matter of public service, perception matters, that taxpayers, that American taxpayers should have confidence that you are making decisions based on what's right for them and not what's right for you? Do you think that's...
If I wanted what was right for me, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today. But yeah,
Well, you chose to sit there, which is why I'm asking you the question.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, yeah,
So perception matters in
perceptions.
terms of the public trust.
Right, perception's reality in the mind of the perceiver, sure.
Congressman Long, Americans deserve fair treatment from the IRS. No one should be favored for their wealth or connections, nor should anyone be targeted for their political views. Sadly, sadly, attempts to weaponize the IRS are not new. We've seen this time and time again in our history. In the 1970s, President Nixon repeatedly tried to use the IRS to investigate his enemies, who included civil rights leaders, it included journalists, and even members of Congress. Luckily, multiple IRS commissioners refused to carry out the president's orders. These public servants, in my view, are American heroes. They put the rule of law above partisan politics, and in a real sense, they put it above their careers. They were focused on what's right. And in response to their principled stand, Congress passed a law on a bipartisan basis, to prohibit any president from directing the IRS to target any taxpayer. Thank you so very much. I enjoyed meeting with you in my office last week, and when we met, you and I discussed how President Trump has called for auditing Harvard University because of their political stances. We also talked about how an administration official suggested that the IRS should stop auditing some of the president's top political allies, including Mike Lindell.
At the same time as the people whom Donald Trump is pardoning, claiming that it was the Biden administration attacking them, this is a politically motivated attack. That's the claim of the individuals asking for pardons for Trump for crimes they actually committed. So on one side, we have Trump and MAGA saying, oh, this political persecution, oh no, oh, Joe Biden went after us. When we know that's not the case, they're just criminals. On the other side of it, Donald Trump is engaging in political persecution, going after his enemies in the courts, in Congress, people who donate to his opponents, all while everyone else is protected. It couldn't be more hypocritical. It is shocking. A presidency you can purchase. It blows me away. But it's our job to call it out. We're going to be on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.